Take it away.
Okay, folks, thank you for joining us. It is Sue and Adam and Roxy joining you for part 2 of the Category 2 budget in North Carolina mini-bid training. Part 1, if you joined, was with USAC from 3 to 4, and they did a rather in-depth training on Category 2 budgets. And of course, mini bids are all about North Carolina. So we're going to spend most of our time talking about that today. Moving on, our training topics for today, of course, are C2 budgets. We're going to look at the Category 2 budget tool so that you can know exactly how much money you have to work with. We're going to look at how North Carolina and the School Connectivity Initiative helps with Category 2. We're going to talk about our state master contracts and competitive bidding. We're going to talk about what exactly is a mini bid and our mini bid process. All right, we're going to start with Category 2 budgets, and I believe we're going to start with Sue.
Hey folks, how's it going? So quick 30 seconds or less since you just spent an hour with us trying to find that magic button. Category 2 budgets. As was mentioned, and we're going to be repetitive, and I'm not going to say that anymore. The Category 2 budgets are on a fixed 5-year budget cycle. This budget cycle started in 2021, so we are in year 2, and will continue through funding year 2025. In 2026, they will be reset back to whatever the multiplier will be based on the number of students, so on and so forth, et cetera. USAC did determine that during this budget cycle, unlike the first modernization order, there will not be an increase, cost of living, inflation increase, any of those things during this cycle. So there are 3 things to know for the most part about your Category 2 budgets. There is a multiplier. It really sounds terrible, but it includes $167 per button chair, so per enrolled student in your brick and mortar schools. For libraries, your multiplier is $4.50 per square foot for all of your libraries. If you are a single charter, a single library, your funding floor is $25,000, and we'll discuss how we get to those numbers in a moment. So your Category 2 budget is determined from the first Form 471 in the budget cycle, so when that is certified. This includes a certified consortium map that includes your organization. It is, your first one that you file through. If you didn't file 471 last year and you're part of NC-REN, ta-da, your numbers are there. Your budget should be there for you for your use in Category 2. You may request a Category 2 budget recalculation in any year of the budget cycle, but you do not have to. If your student enrollment for the 2021 year shows that you had 10,000 students, and this year you have, 10,100, you do not need to change that. You can, and then it will recalculate your Category 2 budget. But all of that is actually within the form. For those of you who joined us early, we did not see the magic button. We'll leave it at that. If you do not request a recalculation, your C2 budget will not change. If you had $100,000 in your budget for the 5-year cycle and you did not request anything for 2021, you still have $100,000 in your Category 2 budget. It will apply for the year it was requested and forward if there was a change, but it will not retroactively go back. So just keep that in mind. They're not going to all of a sudden throw more money at your first year just because you had an increase in students this year or next year or the year after that. During this, and I'll call it like a second modernization order because they went back to budgets can be applicable by school district. So at the school district level, You can go back to basing your C2 on a school-by-school enrollment, but during this time, they put it back to the site level. So the budgeted entity is the entity with the C2 budget. We speak a lot about BENS, the bill entity number. There is a master as well as the related or children entities below it. Budgeted entities are independent schools, independent libraries, school districts, library systems. School districts and library systems can allocate the funding amongst any of the eligible sites within their purview, their umbrella. School district has 25 schools. Only 10 of them really need to have new switches to replace older ones. They can take their budget and apply it to just those 10 schools in that example. Here comes the fun. Everybody ready for math? We will have a test at the end. You take the total number of full-time students, in each of your schools. So if you've got 20 schools, add all those numbers together and multiply it by the school multiplier. Or you can multiply the number of individual schools by the $25,000 funding floor, becomes an aggregate funding floor. An independent school C2 budget is the greater of those two, multiplying your student count by the school multiplier, which for the 21 through 25 funding years is $167 per student, or the funding floor of $25K. For school districts with 10 or fewer sites, there's a third choice. If you have a number of schools that have fewer than 150 students, take advantage of the funding floor. EPIC can select the calculation that optimizes the budget, kind of like a back and forth thing. So you can calculate your C2 budget for each individual school using the higher of either number of students multiplied by the school multiplier, $167, or the $25,000 funding floor. So in this example that they listed here, if your school has fewer than 150 students, you would use the $25,000 because as you can see, 150 students by $167 per student comes out to $25,050. You would basically take your fewer than 10 site school district and add those calculations together. So if you've got, 8 schools with fewer than 150 students, you would take the $25,000 for each of those 8 schools, and the others you could then multiply by the 167. The school district will still allocate their C2 budget amongst the individual schools as they see fit. So if they've got that big regional high school that takes all of the students from these, K-8s or K-6s that have fewer than 150 students, you could in fact take all that budget from those smaller schools and rebuild the infrastructure of your high school. However, if your profile in EPIC has 11 or more schools, you cannot pick this option. Library systems has a similar type of scenario. You can add the square footage for each of your library branches, multiply this number by the library multiplier, that's $4.50 per square foot, or you can multiply the number of those little branches by the 25,000 funding floor. So if you just have, like a shop in a strip mall that, acts as your library for that area of the city, you might use 25,000 for it. You might have a couple of those in some spaces, but you might have your central regional branch that multiplies by that $4.50 per square foot. You can do that. Independent library C2 budget is the greater of multiplying square footage by the multiplier, $4.50 a square foot, or the funding floor, $25,000. Okay, there you go. Again, as I mentioned or mixed it into the last slide, if your library system has fewer than 10 sites, you have this third option of doing that mix and match. The $25,000 funding floor has with it associated the 5,556 square feet. Because at 5,555 square feet, your total budget would only be $24,997.50. Between the three of us, we could probably scrape 2 quarters together to get you to 25 grand, but take USAC at its word. Take the funding floor. So again, if you've got that small strip mall type space for a branch, you might take that 25,000 if you're a library. If you've got a regional library, central branch might be, you know, in the heart of your city or your county, you might take the $4.50 per square foot by that multiplier, add them all together, that's your Category 2 budget. Again, if the EPIC profile says you have 11 or more branches, this option does not apply to you. Couple things for Category 2 budgets. Schools can only count full-time students. Schools cannot estimate the number of students for buildings under construction. So if you have 12 schools in your district, you're building another elementary school in a new thriving area that's seen a lot of growth, you cannot use an estimate. However, independent schools can use that estimate for new schools while they're under construction. Remember, if you overestimate...
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, I still love you. If you overestimate, USAC will come knocking on your door, rather virtually, saying, you owe us money. So new charters that are opening next year, if your estimated opening enrollment, you anticipated having, you're in a booming area, I'm going to just pick on Leyland right now because they're building all sorts of homes and apartments and everything, and you're expecting 125 students per grade level and you're opening at a K-8, I would be a little more conservative than that, okay? I would not max out my C2 numbers.
And this is very common. I'm going to interrupt Sue for just a minute with charters that are under construction or opening up. They tend to use the numbers that they put into their charter application that they plan to open with, like Sue said, 125 at each grade level or 250 at each grade level. And so that's what they apply for their Category 2 budget with. And they get the money. Folks, read that red bullet there. You have to pay it back by the end of the next funding year. Okay? So if you applied based on 800 kids and you really only enrolled 400, do 400 times the 167. By the end of the next funding year, you have to pay that money back. It's hard enough for you to come up with operating expenses, and now you're going to have to pay this money back. So a lot of you hire consultants to help you do your E-rate filing, and you need to share this information with them. And paying back is new. They used to not make you pay your funds back, but they will now. Okay? So be wary and be cautious.
So something now that's different that's come up with this second 5-year bucket, so to speak, this 5-year budget, is the transferring of equipment. Because in the last order, your budget was based on each school. So if you had 10 schools in the district, each school had its own budget. So you may have had your, Eastside High School with, 3,500 students in it, but you may have had another school that was really for students that might have been a little bit developmentally challenged. So they only had 100 kids in the school. So there was only, that $25,000 minimum for them, but your Eastside High School had oodles amounts of money. You couldn't take any of the budget from your high school to help build the infrastructure of that other school. You could not transfer equipment back and forth. This equipment had to stay for 3 years. Beginning on July 1st, 2021, applicants may transfer purchased equipment regardless of the funding year of the equipment purchase. So that's big. That's why I read it verbatim. This is, excuse me, I'm sorry, directly from the USAC page. You don't have to track where that switch went. You do have to track that it went into your schools. That's an obvious, that's part of your inventory management, as long as it stays within your schools, your school district. Make sure you keep all of that documented if you do those transfers around, because sooner or later a tech leader or tech director is going to get hit by the lottery bus, and 6 years from now when USAC comes knocking on the door because they want to do an audit, saying, yeah, Joe doesn't work here anymore is not going to fly. You'll need to know where that equipment originally was placed and if it did move from its original placement to the next spot. We're all good at, yes, we put that computer on Joe's desk. Obviously, E-Rate is not computers, but we never realized that we took that computer and then gave it to somebody else later on, okay? Maintain your asset and inventory records for all equipment purchased and the actual locations for 10 years after the purchase. So Category 2 budgets we spoke of, that you can in fact change the numbers. This is a snippet of what your Category 2 budget information looks like. They calculate that rate separately. They can collect, you can choose that you're going to put a number in of students, enrolled students in your brick and mortars for the entire district, or you can manage all the records of each individual school based on the size of your school district. You know what that can entail.
And folks, if you're going to have your budget recalculated, this is where you have to change your numbers. And then there's supposed to be a magic button somewhere close by that you click and it'll recalculate your budget. So we have to find that, and you have to request that it be recalculated with this budget magic button somewhere. So anyway, but you have to go down here and change this number. So if you're now at 9750 or 97,500, you definitely are going to want this recalculated.
Yeah, so that is something we definitely get clarification on, because while we were all listening to the last presentation from USAC at 3 o'clock, I know Roxy and I were both testing what we were being told. I did note that my Category 2 budget in the entity I was playing with did in fact update, so it was rather interesting. So we will have more information, we will have absolute clarification, and we will get this to you as soon as we have it in our possession. So basically your Category 2 budget is determined, as we mentioned before, the first time you file or certify a Form 471 during that budget cycle. It also includes consortium 471s that includes any other entities throughout the state or consortium members. You can request, as Roxy just mentioned, the recalculation of your Category 2 budget, as they're referring to as a replacement C2 budget request. As I said, when I just tried to update an entity, it went live right then and there. I'm hoping that's just the training site, and that we go live and someone wants to do that, we get to watch over your shoulder to see exactly how that's going. Any C2 budgets that can be requested during the administrative window and during the 471 filing window up until your first 471 for that funding year is certified. In a nutshell, if you're doing 3 different Category 2 471s, you're doing all your switches maybe for your younger, your primary schools, your K-6s or K-8s, and you've got a Category 2 471 for your high schools. As soon as you certify one of those, your number's locked. You cannot go back, oh, that's right, we had this big growth in our high school. Yeah, it's too late at that point.
And also remember, folks, these numbers are going to have to be verified. You can't just go willy-nilly and put a number in there. These numbers are going to have to come from your state valid file, which we're going to send you as soon as we get the numbers from the people in Raleigh. So like I said, you can't just put any willy-nilly number in there. They're going to have to be verified, and you have to have something to back it up, and that's going to be your state ballot file numbers, okay? So if you're going to change it, you got to have something to back that number up.
Not really sure how this plays into the state of North Carolina. I believe that charter schools are standalone.
Independent. Yep.
They're independent. But in the event that you feel you're, just listening in on our invite and you're from another state around us, the charter school is presumed to be part of a school district unless it demonstrates financial and administrative independence from the district. And that's the only time charter can have its own C2 budget. North Carolina, all charter schools are independent and have their own C2 budget.
That is exactly right.
Also starting in 2021, there was no longer part-time enrollment. School districts have to count each full-time student one time. Independent schools that are attended by students from multiple districts can continue to count these students as full-time students. So they're either registered in this independent school, excuse me, they might go to a campus for robotics, education half of the year or, half of the day or something. He can only be counted in one of the schools. There's no longer part-time in like this magnet school and part-time in his home school. He's enrolled in one of them. All the counting of students in enrollment and COVID-19, this all rolls back to students that are enrolled in brick and mortars are counted as full-time students, regardless if they are in a remote learning space or if they are actively attending classes. That being said, applicants can use their full-time enrollment numbers still from funding year 2020 as they had them before the pandemic hit, or as Roxy mentioned, we're waiting for the numbers to come to us from Raleigh for enrollments throughout the state, and then we can pass those back to you guys.
And I want to make sure you understand the difference between remote learning and a virtual school.
Yeah, sorry.
No, not a problem. Lots of school districts have started virtual schools within the school district. That's for, the kids whose parents don't want them inside the school building due to COVID or what have you. And those are your schools. They have an LEA number. These kids do not come to school. They are being served at home 100% virtually. These kids do not get counted in your Category 2 budget. The children who are enrolled in a brick and mortar school, who come to school and may be sent home for remote learning for 2 days or 2 weeks due to a closure for a COVID outbreak, or even, I don't know, a blizzard, a water main break, whatever, but you're still remote learning, a hurricane, yeah, good. That's remote learning, okay? Those kids get counted in your Category 2 budget because they are physically enrolled in a brick and mortar site. So there is a difference, and you need to understand the difference between the remote learning children versus a virtual child. A virtual school. Yeah, I know.
A child is not virtual.
Yeah.
Any of us that are parents know that a child is not virtual.
Okay, a child who is enrolled in a virtual school. So make sure you understand, and a lot of you have lost children due to, for your Category 2 budgets, due to the fact that parents have moved those children to virtual schools versus the brick and mortar schools. So your Category 2 budgets may look a little different due to that. So just be aware of the differences with that. Okay, let's talk about the Category 2 budget tool. And I believe this is, this still Sue?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If you want to give me control, or if you...
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Or are you comfortable again using this tool?
I'm turning this, giving you control, Miss Sue.
Let's take, which monitor do I want? That one. So do you all see that Category 2 budget tool?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool, cool, cool. So, wow, this is a whole lot of information. How do I get to my school? We have a couple filters over on the right-hand side. And you could go through all of these until you get to your specific school by dropping down here, typing in NC for North Carolina. That's nice. This is still going to be really populated. You can go in, pick a school, library, whatever, pick the city that you're located in as per your record in EPIC. How about build entity name? I like that one. How about I pick on, since I just learned that we have a new tech director going over there, New Hanover County Board of Ed. Once you've picked it, you'll see that you have a selected value here below. It's a little highlighted. Click your apply button. And once you do that, you can actually see here is all the information as it pertains to your school. Your funded C2 budget amount, any pending C2 budget numbers, and your available C2 budget amount is this last number down at the end. So all through here, you know, it tells you that you're an applicant, what your budget cycle is that you're sitting in, how many entities are existent for your build entity number. So in this case, New Hanover County Schools has 45 child entities with 27,000 students at $167 per student. Remember, we talked about that multiplier, and your budget. If you had anything outstanding, for example, you filed a 471 and it's not been certified yet, it might be sitting here under pending. You may have filed a Form 500 and it hasn't been acknowledged yet through USAC. That could still be sitting pending. This is your budget to be used for the rest of the budget cycle. Okay? Try to keep it something simple. And I believe that was really all I had for my part of the presentation here. I could send this back to you, Roxy.
Yes, ma'am.
I could figure out how to do this. Hey, how about that big red button that says stop sharing?
That works.
Hot diggity.
Okay, back to me. All right, and then there was just a picture there of what Sue just showed you. All right, and now we're going to move into Adam's part, and he's going to talk about the school connectivity initiative. Sometimes it's an issue. In Category 2. So I'm moving right on before I get myself in trouble. Okay, Adam.
All right. And is there a way for me to
Let me share my desktop.
Okay.
And then...
Can you go back just one, Roxy, just in case?
Yes, sir. Hang on. Let me pull over.
Sure.
I need.
And don't worry, folks, we are trained professionals.
On most days, yes.
That don't end in Y.
Hang on. Nope, nope, nope. How's that,
Okay.
Adam?
Yes, perfect. So this section is going to be about how the school connectivity initiative works with the Category 2, and your three favorite people here are part of the School Connectivity Initiative. And so this is going to talk about how we help you. And I believe we've covered this in some other presentations. And so as a recap, this is how you apply for funding with the Form 471 and use the state master contracts or the state DPI 470 to apply for your Category 2 internal connected items. And so then you complete, as far as steps, you complete your mini bid process, which we're going to go into more detail in just a second. And then you receive your funding commitment decision letter. And this is the biggie here too. DPI pays your non-discounted portion that USAC and E-rate do not cover. And so as a kind of a process overview, DPI files the 470 so that you don't have to. And the competitive bidding rules followed. And then you, as an applicant, will complete the mini bid process. And DPI has gone through and done all the awesome legwork to have multiple vendors on the contracts, and they all have a fair chance to get your business. And so you basically follow through with doing the same thing that we did in a mini standpoint in the mini bid. And so I keep saying mini bid. Now we're going to talk about what a mini bid actually is. And so a mini bid is essentially the process of requesting quotes from all of our vendors that DPI has done and the ones that offer hardware on the state master contracts. So in bold, it does say this is required. And as a note, you have to request each thing you're asking for from all of the vendors. That ties back to equal and fair. Everyone gets a fair chance. So if you are applying for UPSs and you don't think, oh, maybe this one doesn't sell or this one doesn't sell this brand that I want, you have to send it to everyone for every item that you are requesting, and that is done via email. And then once you get back a set of your quotes, you get back, say, 2, 4, 1, you evaluate those quotes and vendors against each other to choose what is the most cost-effective solution. So price, as we talk about, price has to be the #1 consideration, but there are other considerations that go into what is concluded as cost-effective. And once you choose your vendor, that's when you write a letter of intent to that selected vendor. All right, and now we're going to transfer the presentation over to my computer, and I'm going to give you guys a quick tour of what a mini bid actually looks like. And you're now the presenter. Share. Enter to. All right, can everybody see that?
See a Google homepage.
Okay, perfect. So on our homepage, let that load up. Under Category 2, funding year 2022, here is the mini bid template right here. Now again, please remember, before you complete this, check our website first. If you download it today, and then if you're doing your mini bid process in December, January, sometime, come back and get a new one just in case, because vendor contacts typically change. The same list we may have to update. 5 companies may have a new rep. So you definitely want to make sure that you have the most updated version from this location on our website before you complete this and send it out. And so here is what it looks like. When it comes up, this is the first screen you see. And if you look down here in the bottom left corner, you put an arrow, maybe, there we go. There's a yellow tab for instructions, and this will show you kind of to go over, see if I can make it a little bit bigger. There we go. And so this will go through all the instructions to request your quotes, all your mini bid tab and evaluate your responses. And of course, keep copies of everything. And so the first tab here that is described in the instructions is the project description tab. And so up here, this is where you will put what quotes or bids you are seeking. So say I'm going to buy 10 switches, 2 UPS, and I'm going to get 50 access points. And this is where you put in your personal information here. And this here is where you will put, if you need to have a walkthrough, say you're getting a new wireless system and they have to come out to do a heat map or check to make sure where they're going to put your equipment, you put that here and the date that you want that to happen. And then underneath it, we want to have all of our quotes by a certain date. And make sure you give yourself ample time to be able to get these vendors out if they have to do a walkthrough. Make sure that you have enough time to get all your bids and quotes back. And then also give yourself enough time to go over them and file. And make sure we don't want to have all this done 2 days before the filing deadline and something happens.
So notice, folks, we have 14 days there.
Yes.
You are not to send the vendor a quote request and ask for it back in 3 days. Okay? You are not. I've already had training with all the vendors, and they've been told they have 2 weeks to get this back to you. So it's not their fault if you wait till the last minute to do your work. They have 14 days to get this back to you, okay? So that means you have to plan accordingly and not wait till the last minute to get your stuff together. So it's not just your school they're dealing with. They're dealing with the entire state of North Carolina plus other states as well. So remember, 2 weeks if you need a walkthrough. If you're doing structured cabling, you're going to need a walkthrough. If you're building a new building, you're going to need a walkthrough. And then after they do the walkthrough, they're going to need at least 2 more weeks to get your quote back. So that's a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a month. All right. Sorry, Adam.
Oh, no, of course, no problem. And down here is the project description, and this is where you're going to type up just a quick overview of what it is you're looking for. So we'll put in here, my school is looking to purchase and install 50 access points, 10 switches, and 2 UPS backups. And you can describe
I'm going to interrupt again if you don't mind.
Sure.
This is where you can be very specific in that the model you're looking for and the brand. So if you want 50 Aruba, bop, 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 you can say that here, but then you have to say or equivalent, okay?
Because just going to say that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm glad you did, because I was going to put that in my little typing here.
Yeah, and it doesn't wrap right. I don't know. I didn't make this. I'm not going to tell you who did, but it doesn't wrap right. So be careful as you're typing. Just notice that it doesn't wrap. The text doesn't wrap. So you can put what you're looking for, the brand, even the model specific, 48-port power over Ethernet switch, Cisco, bop, 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 but then put or equivalent. Okay?
I'll put that in right there. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
And if I spelled equivalent wrong, don't do like me.
So be careful with that. The reason you have to say or equivalent is because you can't give preferential treatment to a certain brand. However, you can when it comes to evaluating these vendors, you're going to give more points to the vendor that sells the product that works best with your current system. So if in the project description, if you want to say, we currently have a Cisco network, so they might want to know what you currently have, so they can offer the brand that even if they don't sell Cisco equipment, they might sell something that works well with Cisco. So it's okay for you to give a background of the system you currently have in the project description, and then you can write out exactly what you're looking to purchase. Now, you're be as specific as possible in your list. And I'll shut up, Adam. I'm sorry.
You are totally fine.
These mini bids will make you or break you. You'll either get funded or you won't, according to how well you do your mini bid.
Absolutely. And we're here to help in case you have questions too. Always to remind you guys of that. And down below here is where you will put the type field as appropriate. So we went up top and we said we were going to do 50 access points, and you can put in here Aerohive, I'm just making up names, 200H. And Roxy, correct me, should we put or equivalent here again?
Yes.
Okay.
And you know, it's okay if you want to leave it out from the project description. You could say, you know, if you want to just put it down here at the bottom and just say, give your background at the project description, you know, you're going to rip and replace, you're just going to add to your current system, you're building a new wing, you currently have a Cisco shop, you want to rip out a Aruba and replace it with X, you know, whatever, and then just come down here at the bottom and list everything you're going to buy.
All right.
That's good.
And a lot of details instructions are over here on the right in case you do need to reference some of the things we've talked about today. And Roxy had mentioned the evaluation criteria. And so if you look down at the bottom, that is number 2 tab. So this is where you come over, and this is done very nicely and easily with a nice system check, if you guys see that, to where price cost has to be the top weighted option. So if I put in 20, it's going to say, oh, no, 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 no. And so you always have to make sure, perfect. And then also, if I were to put 29, it's still high, but if you notice down at the bottom of the screen, combined weights must equal 100. So this sheet has some great fail-safes in here for you to make sure that you fill it out as you can. And these are kind of defaults. If you, for your particular case, do need to change these a little bit, Roxy, again, I'm going to default to you to confirm, but you can change these. Just make sure you are able to effectively judge vendors appropriately.
Correct.
With your criteria.
Yes, yes. We can't tell you what criteria to use, nor do we want to. So these are just suggestions. You're certainly welcome to use these. Most people do use these. However, the only one you can't change is eligible costs.
Mm-hmm.
You can change the weight, but cost must be the greatest factor, the highest number of points.
And this is another area that Roxy had mentioned a little bit before, where if you want to put in here something about how you would integrate into your current system. So you could say
that's number, yeah, the second one, technical sufficiency.
Oh, perfect. There we go. Yep. So how well the product will work with existing. There you go. You don't even have to put it.
Now, I will tell you that these weights feed into the mini bid itself. So you don't want to play in here too much or you're going to mess up the formulas that feed into the mini bid. You're going to be doing math with a pencil.
And that is where we go over here to mini bid evaluation. And as Roxy just mentioned, this is made to be super easy for you guys. So if you look up at the top here, weighting, that all ties from number 2 evaluation criteria. So you don't necessarily want to play too much because this makes it so easy where everything comes up. And so we have our project here, and say we got 3 bids. So we got one from this vendor here, and this one here, and this one. And so we're going to put in our amount, and I'm just going to put in just some numbers. And so they're the cheapest, so we're going to give them 100 for eligible cost because they are the cheapest. This one's in the middle, so we'll say 50. And this one is the highest. Roxy, do you recommend if they put a 0 or maybe a 25 for something like the highest?
So that's a very good question. So it's up to you to determine how many points you deduct or your point spread for your bids. You could take away 10, you could take away 20, but you just have to make note of what you do and why. I wouldn't necessarily drop 50 because that only leads you to putting in a 0, and that's kind of hard. So you might want to drop 20 or 25, and yeah, put 50 for the next one. So at least that you give them some points, and that's a pretty good spread. So, you know, if you get 10 bids, then decide on your point spread from there. So what you want to do is just make a note down here on evaluation notes why you gave them the points you gave them. So you want to keep filling out these notes because you have to back up why you do what you do. Okay? So, but it's your choice. You just have to know why you did it and why you chose the point spread you did.
All right, and I'm just going to quickly fill out a couple other things here for the sake of time, just to show you how these calculate out. And so you'll see here that everything fills in this line, and then you get your total score. And so if I just fill in this one quickly, 60. You're going to see a score, and that one's only 1 point less, but they are weighted. And so therefore, you'll be able to determine who your winner is. And again, I want to just make sure that I get this right. There are multiple copies down here. Copy of. You will want to fill out one mini bid evaluation for each type of project that you have, correct, Roxy?
Yeah, and I would just right-click and rename it. So if you're doing, so the reason you're going to get various types of quotes and things, every vendor can't sell every product. So you're going to get a vendor that can only bid UPSs. So you're going to have to evaluate your UPS vendors by themselves. Then you're going to get some vendors who can do switches and APs together. So you're going to evaluate them together, perhaps. And then you're going to have your cabling vendors. So you're going to do a third mini bid for your cabling. So it just depends on what's going on. And so that's how you're going to get your quotes and how you're going to have to evaluate them. So if you have more, then you just keep copying over the mini bids until you have as many as you need. But I would rename them at the bottom with a right click and a rename until you are done. And then you'll be finished. But the big thing that I've seen auditors and PIAs ask for is over here on the right. Date completed and completed by. This better be done before you file your 471. And then who came to your evaluation meeting? So who's helping you do these mini bids? And then you just type in their names and stuff and make your notes. So it should be fairly easy.
Just put in, for example, all your people. And then couple other quick notes for this section, and it should show us here. Track who sends no bid responses. If no bid response is received, leave it blank. And so in this box, you'll want to leave it blank. That's correct, Roxy.
For your information, yes, sir. Or you can put no, or you can just leave it blank, either one. We have told the vendors to respond to you with no bid, just to not ignore you, but to respond to you with no bid if they are not going to send you a quote, okay?
And so a possible, go ahead, Roxy, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead and keep all of those email responses in a vendor documentation folder, because that's part of what you should keep with this mini bid, okay? Because I have seen that be asked for in a selective review on this Category 2 stuff with these mini bids. They want to see all the quotes and all the emails from the vendors who said no bid. Like, why didn't you get more than 2 bids? Well, the vendors said they weren't sending bids. Well, then they wanted to see proof that the vendors said they weren't sending bids. So you need to keep them. Okay? Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, no problem. One possible suggestion, I know in my mind, that helps keep things a little separate is if you receive a no bid from a company, put no in here, but if you receive no response from them, leave it blank. So that way you can go back and say, when you're organizing your folder Roxy just talked about, you can look back and say, okay, I didn't receive an email from ADT.com, but I did receive a no bid from A3. Do I have that in my folder that shows it? So you have 3 choices, and that's a good way to kind of keep track of who sent you a bid, who sent you a no bid response, and who sent you nothing back.
Excellent. Excellent.
And I believe for this should cover at least our basics. I want to get back to just the last few slides to get you guys out of here, so to say. And if you have any questions, let us know. Big takeaway from this too, make sure when you get ready to do this, you have the most updated version from our website.
And also know that we will help walk you through this, especially if you've never done one before. We will be more than happy to walk you through doing your mini bid. You know, we'll just have your quotes in front of you. I mean, we'll help you with your quote request and sending that part out. And know that you don't have to send this whole file when you're doing your quote request. That's really just tab 2, which is the project description. So a lot of folks just pull that tab out and send that. And one thing Adam didn't talk about was how to send those quote requests.
I apologize.
Adam, that's okay. Can you reshare that, Adam?
Absolutely. I'm sorry. Can you give that back?
Oh, yes.
I just gave it back to you. Sorry. I was trying to be proactive.
That's okay.
We're going to go back here and talk about.
So you've completed your project description. Now you have to get your quotes back in before you can evaluate and pick your winners. So look at tab 3 for the mini bid. So what you do is you copy all of those vendors into the I just do it in the BCC field. So if they reply to all, it doesn't go everywhere. And then go back to project description, if you don't mind, Adam.
Sure.
And
this is what I was looking for.
Yeah, there should be some text. I'm sorry, instructions. Go to instructions.
Sure.
There's text in the instructions.
Yep, here we go. And there's the instructions here. I apologize, I did not. So it's this section right here. And that is where you copy all your email addresses, like Roxy said. And here's in the body of the email that you can put in reference to NC Department of Public Instruction. And please see attached workbooks. And you can actually send the entire workbook. So if you have all your tabs for 4 projects, you can send that one file to all 4 and for each one. And Roxy,
no, they don't need that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't mean, because you shouldn't have filled anything out in those tabs yet. The only thing they need is the project description. The only thing they need is the project description. Because they're only going to quote you. So they only need to see what you need for your quote, for them to quote you. Yeah.
Maybe a good idea to just not even have those tabs in there, or just keep them.
Pull number 1 out. You can copy it and pull project description out, and then follow the instructions that Adam has there in green. And notice it says it asks of each vendor to confirm receipt of this request via email with either quote forthcoming or no bid. And so you just pop off an email, send it to all those people. And the reason you have to send to everybody is, number one, for fairness and competitive bidding. And then number two, each vendor is under contract for different things. So vendor A may be able to quote thing 1 and thing 2, but vendor B can quote thing 1, thing 2, and thing 3. So you're going to get lots of different responses there. And we have 87 different contracts, or 86. I don't know. I've lost count. I've sent so many in there. So.
All right.
I'm done now.
That, yep. Would you like control back, Roxy?
I don't know what I want anymore, but yes, I'll start with that.
I will send this. Yes, of course, I'll send you.
Okay, Mr. Adam.
All right. And there's kind of where we talked about. And then Roxy touched on it, I believe I did too as well. The big thing is to remember that you can definitely get a denial of funding if you do not complete this correctly. So just remember that this is a huge pivotal thing that will make or break your funding, and we don't want that to happen.
Questions. So if you will put any questions you might have in the chat, we will address them. I'll wait just a minute and let you go ahead and do that. While we're waiting, I will go ahead and tell you that yes, you can go ahead and start sending out your quote requests to the vendors. Some folks have already done that and have started getting their quotes back in on the mini bids. The contracts are ready. The 471 window won't open until January, but you can go ahead and get started if you know what you want. If you don't know what you want, that's the first step, is make a list of the items you need, either replacing old access points, that sort of thing. So that's the first step. We did have a question earlier about the transferring of equipment, and someone asked, can I go ahead and move things that were purchased in 2020 now? You mean I don't have to wait till the end of the 3 years, which was the old rule? And according to the slide we had up, yes, then the new rules, you can, as of July 1st, 2021, go ahead and move that equipment around, because that was the new budget cycle, and it's a district budget, so that equipment can be moved anywhere, and you do not have to notify USAC. You have to just keep up with those moves in your inventory. So you can't move it to a shelf. You can't move it to a NIF. You have to move it to another eligible entity, which is another school site. Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat. Does anyone have a question? Okay, well, here are our 2 resources as usual. We are going to put this presentation recording up on our website underneath training. We will put the slide deck up there as well. Look for them sometime tomorrow or Friday. We're still in training ourselves with USAC, as well as trying to conduct our own and take care of you all as your needs arise. So please just be patient with us. And we do appreciate you joining us today. Let us know if you do have any questions or need help with the mini bid at all. We'll be happy to help you. Thank you for joining us, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much.